Happy 2025 to you. It is Thursday, January 22nd. Purdue has just won their second Big Ten contest. They improved to 2-1 in the conference, 10-4 on the season. Up in Minnesota, up in Minneapolis, a place that has had some bad juju for your Boilermakers, but tonight wasn't that way. Maybe for a half, it was a little lethargic, kind of like they played in the game versus Toledo. But the second half looked a lot different, and some familiar faces pulled the Boilers to a resounding victory. I'm going to talk all about it. But before I do it, let me thank our friends at Home Field. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Enter Boiled25 at checkout, and you get 15% off your first order. They got some really good stuff. Check out the retro sweater. That's my favorite thing right now. Also, when you're on campus and you've just watched Purdue play an excellent second half, but a really mediocre first half, you know what you ought to do? You ought to sprint towards the fire station, out of Mackey, and sprint towards the fire station. It's going to be cold. You want to warm up. You're going to get near to the fire station, then you turn left, and the blue lights will be there at AJ's. Go in, look for Adam, yell boiled, then sit down, have a pint. And maybe in the bottom of your pint, it's going to be a Boiled Sports Magnet. Free take home for you. Put it on your refrigerator. Have burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. EatAJ's.com. I love them. All right. So, Purdue had an interesting a tale of two halves. One thing that's really, really cool is Painter's trying to not let Purdue get into a groove where they're really not playing a inspired brand of basketball. And so he shook up the starting lineup today. I think you had, let's see, I'll look at it. I'll cheat. You had Kaufman-Renn, Caleb First, CJ Cox, Braden Smith, Fletch Lawyer. So two of those guys we're not used to seeing. We're not used to seeing CJ Cox in the starting lineup or Caleb First. I think right early in the season we saw a lineup with lineups with Berg, and we saw a lineup with Harris, but I think it's the first time we've seen Cox in the starting lineup. And if you tuned into the post-game after the Toledo game, you saw me talking about something needs to be done to shake him up. Well, the funny thing is, Paint did that. Appreciate him listening to Handsome Hour, always good, and Boiled Sports Products. But it didn't work immediately. It got better. But at first, Purdue was really, really not very good. The first half was a pretty uninspired brand of basketball. Minnesota defined the pace. They play a very ugly, slow, crappy brand of basketball. They have no offensive rhythm. They have Garcia with this funny hairdo who he carries them. But after that, they don't do too much on offense. And Purdue was matching it with an equally just putrid brand of offense and mediocre defense. The officials got involved in the party just by doing what NCAA officials do, and I don't know what they're watching half the time, but it really didn't matter. Both teams sucked in the first half. Purdue looked like a matchup between two of the worst teams in the conference. As it turns out, only one really bad team in the conference was in the game. Purdue played mediocre. They played in a brand that had one of my friends. I don't think he's here right now. We were texting, and he was, I don't want to say beside himself, but he was very, very negative. He sounded like Boiler Dowd during football season, just talking about how Purdue was going to struggle and all the reasons, and it was based on that game. If we see that version of Purdue on offense, the same version we saw versus Toledo for chunks of the game, and that offense that we saw for the first half in Minneapolis, for many games in the Big Ten, Purdue is going to struggle to make the NCAA tournament. There's no doubt. I picked 2021 wins. That's still on the bubble. I know we got a lot of things that can happen. A lot of good things can happen before then. But, man, that first half was tough to watch. It's easy to get into that sarcastic mode. I'm pretty good at getting there when watching games like that, just kind of getting silly. But in the second half, Purdue found some rhythm. And the way they found rhythm was some familiar faces doing things. Caleb First, let's be real honest. Caleb First in the starting lineup, it did exactly what I think Matt Painter wanted it to. First scored points. He pulled down rebounds off the glass. He did what I was hoping he would do this season, period. Poor guy. I said in jest on Twitter, he looks like he's just rolled out of the rack every time. It looks to me like he's always a little tired, like he didn't get a chance to shave because he's got just a little bit of a mustache. Hair's a little bit messed up, but he played pretty darn well today. He played tough on the boards, hustled down the court, still brings the ball down too low when he gets it in the blocks, but that's okay. TKR played pretty tough. Minnesota has some bigs that are, some of them are, Garcia's obviously good and skilled, but after that, they got some guys you're like, I kept calling this one guy Ezekiel. You probably know who I'm talking about if you watch the game. He and Braden Smith could be cult leaders or maybe move someplace and their weird facial hair is a bit much, but that guy, he would have been the guy that I would have walked in the gym and said, I'm not letting that guy beat me. And he was doing a pretty good job beating Purdue, except for when he'd take the ball and just chuck it into the stands. I don't know the guy's name off the top of my head. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, though, if you saw the game. But then they had a couple other guys. Minnesota has two dudes that are just absolute mammoth human beings. They're like me if I were stretched out, or not stretched out, just every bit of me was made into a 6'9", 6'10" guy. This proportion, but 6'9", 6'10", that's a scary dude. At 5'4", not very scary, kind of huggable. But at 6'10", 6'9", that's a scary guy. And Minnesota had two of them, 00 and 5. I don't know their names either, but they were leaning hard on TKR. So TKR had a bit of a hard job. He was... Minnesota's strength looked like it was underneath the basket, but those guys weren't really effective on offense. It's a common theme. But really, it's just Garcia, if we're being real honest. What we see in Minnesota, that's a team that had, 8 wins? Minnesota fans are not convinced. If you watch the game, they had nobody there. Pretty embarrassing showing for their fans. And that place is a pretty good place to see a game, I think, generally. The Barn is a tough place to play, but there was nobody there. And I don't know if it was snowy, but Minnesota fans are generally hardy enough to fight through the snow. But tonight, not many of them there. A lot of empty seats, and Purdue just powered through in the second half. And how the hell else did they do it? TKR played tough. Also, you had Fletch was 6 for 6, I think, in the second half. He ends up high percentage. I'll tell you what that is in a second when I look at the stats. But I don't think he missed a shot until about, 5 minutes left in the game. So Fletch shot the ball really well. Smith flirted with a triple-double again. Not enough rebounds tonight. But both of them had over 20 points. Then you had TKR and first. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the problem with the lack of bench scoring is still a very, very real issue. And Paint trying to move things around, in theory, should do that because you're bringing Colvin and Heidi off the bench. Huh? But those guys, man. I think Heidi had a 3. Colvin almost missed the rim on a 3. They need some confidence. They need some consistency. Purdue needs them to come along a little bit. And I think it's this simple. If one or both of those guys can start just shooting consistently, I think it's going to be a huge difference. CJ Cox is a freshman. Harris is a freshman. I say they're going to, and I mean it when I say it, those guys are going to be good. It's going to take time. But Heidi and Colvin really, really need to come along. One of them needs to come along. And if they want to be gentlemen and let the other one go first and not do it at the same time, somebody sprouts wings and becomes a butterfly soon, that'd be excellent. Be really, really good. Let's look at the stats together, shall we? Purdue does win 81-61. They are now 10-4 on the season, 2-1 in conference after the weird, screwy Big Ten scheduling. Now we're in the real Big Ten schedule. The next game will be at Mackey versus Northwestern. That has been a tough game historically, just because Northwestern is tough for Purdue. So even though it's at Mackey, it could be a little tough. That will not have the full paint crew. I'm going to try to go to one of the next couple games at home with LBD. So keep my fingers crossed. But let's see. Trey Kaufman-Renn, 8 for 14 from the field. Very solid. 17 points. 4 boards. I'd like to see more from him. An assist and only a turnover. Like I said, he had a hard assignment, but I think Purdue needs more on the glass, and that's why the next guy I'm going to talk about, Caleb First, 11 points, 6 boards, and an assist. I think Purdue, let's see. They did out rebound Minnesota by 3. I was hoping it would get to about 10 because it looked like it could have at one point early in the first half, but the rebound differential does matter for this team. Them controlling the glass is a big deal. Purdue only turned over the ball 3 times. That's a huge stat. CJ Cox started the game, had 5 boards. Let's see, he only shot the ball twice. So, but I think that's all right. He's an energy guy. I don't expect a ton from a true freshman coming off not coming off the bench, starting. But Cox and Harris will both get there. Really need more from Colvin and Heidi, there's no doubt. Burgess played quite a bit. Also, probably a good game to play Burgess because they had some pretty unathletic bigs that kind of weren't ready. They look like they're not ready, not fully baked products. Burgess is another guy I think will be great, but right now he only finished 1 point. Braden Smith, 20 points, 10 boards, 6 rebounds. 10 assists, 6 boards. 20, 10, 6. And then on top of that, 0 turnovers. That is a ball game. He looked great. He frustrated the hell out of Minnesota. He had a huge 3 in the second half that was kind of a catalyst to putting the big run together at the end with a guy in his face. Pretty impressive. And of course, Fletch Lawyer, 24 points, 3 assists, no boards, but 8 for 10 from the field, 4 for 6, 4 for 6 from deep. That can't be right. Okay, there we go. So Purdue shot 75% from the free throw line. Another big stat that I look at every game that I think is important. I think that's about it. We don't need to focus on this one too much. Minnesota's not a good team. Not at this point, not as they look. And getting the victory on the road is always good in the Big Ten. This is not a very good Minnesota team as they stand right now. So let's talk to you guys a little bit. Ted Berkey says, good evening. How are you? Nate Dolans, Happy New Year. Same to you. Adam P., evening to you. Fairweather Greg McManus is still around saying hello. MSP 138 says first. Caleb first, but he is not first. Or she is not first. I don't know MSP 138. But fifth, pretty good. Fifth isn't bad. It's not bad. Chris Lichty says first as well. See that? I think they may be just referencing the fact that Caleb first played so damn well, and we've all been pulling for it and hoping it happened. I do think there's a little bit of glitch and a little bit of delay, so maybe you thought you were also first, even though you weren't first. Andy Ide says boiler up. Boilermaker 63 says goodness, Fletch didn't know the glass went that high. Yeah, that I forgot. Thank you. That's a good reminder. Fletch kind of ended the game. The exclamation point, the punctuation on the end of the game was Fletch banking a very high, difficult angle to bank a 3-point from left side, off 1 foot. He hit a 3 and he had a heat check just a couple minutes before that he missed. But he hits that one off of the top left corner of the glass. It was awesome. He was feeling it. And obviously that was a big play. And it really was just a cherry on top, if you will. Nita Beam verse says, I don't think the overrated shit, the intended fact, bold move, Cotton. Yeah, that was a funny moment is Minnesota fans were chanting overrated in the second half. They kept going, actually, after Purdue was really stepping on their throat, which was weird. So maybe don't do that. It felt like they didn't have a lot of knowledgeable fans in the place to me. Some weird booing and screaming, and there were so few people there, so those people must have been a joy to sit next to. I always worry about sitting next to that person. I'm probably that person, if we're being real honest, in the arena when I'm at the games. Jim Garfinkel says, Lawyer 8 for 10 from the field. 4 for 4 free throw. That'll do. Yeah, it's a pretty damn good night. And that's the thing. Pretty simple. If you can just have Smith and Lawyer combine for 44 points and not miss any shots, you're going to win a lot of games. It's that simple. Fairweather Greg McManus says, I've never had fans of a team that lost by 20 at home chirp at me on Twitter. Pretty funny. Probably the folks who chanted overrated. Yeah, they're on Twitter. Minnesota fans come across totally idiotic. And I hope some of you were in the comments tonight and you just say, yeah, there's a weird element of us on social media and we're morons, but most of us are not. Whatever it is, I can tell you how you look on Twitter is just an asinine fan base, if I'm being real honest. So if you're here, thanks for checking in. And I can tell you that's the funny thing. I've had a couple, shows that I've posted, and we had, who was it? The Auburn fans really came on. If you're here, thanks for coming again, Auburn fans. I'm sure you're not, but yeah, they sound absurdly dumb in person, chanting overrated as they're getting their ass kicked, but even worse on social media because that's forever. That's in the interwebs, and now people can screen grab it and bring it back to you and bookmark that. Not fair with a Greg McManus. He doesn't do that. Zach Welch says, really annoyed and disappointed by Purdue fans. There was a reason we said to savor last year. Love this team. So easy to root for, but tiring of the fans. I would highly suggest, if you're getting that way on social media, take a step back from Twitter specifically. I don't know what other, I'm not on many other social medias, but yeah, Twitter's pretty tough. And I've softened my amount of time on there. It was a lot of fun last year. It's not much fun this year. Your boy Max G says Minnesota is such a sad place to play. No one goes. Yeah, it was a really bad environment tonight. Jerry Huff says, great win, but is Colvin broken? Did not shoot well tonight. He's not broken. He's not broken. Shooter's got to shoot. He needs to get up more shots. Right now, he's not very confident, though. And neither is Heidi, honestly. Heidi had a shot. A great play where he missed a shot in the corner in the first half, ran down, I think made a great loose ball play. The guys just need to find where they're going to contribute. I think Purdue really would benefit. It would behoove Purdue greatly if both of them would start scoring, no doubt about it. But anyway, Jeff Nestor says too many second chance points for Minnesota. Definitely in the first half. Not so much in the second half. Ron Gable said, did they say the bearded guy from Minnesota was his 8th year of collegiate eligibility? Yikes. Maybe he will figure it out in his 10th year. Well, so if that's the case, that's the Ezekiel guy. If that's the case, they had he, who's old, and then they had, on top of that, you had Garcia, who's 23. And I think there's another guy in there who's 23. We're going to see a lot of this. And how bad is it if you're that old and you're getting your ass kicked? If you guys saw this Twitter story, you should, this is just a sidebar. Check out the Boiled Sports Twitter feed. There's ridiculous news coming out, and I don't know why I'm surprised every time something dumb comes across. A guy who was playing professionally in Israel, so he was playing against Travion Williams recently. That league has, he's a 23-year-old true freshman playing at Wisconsin Green Bay. I mean, the stats for this guy, he's got a career of stats already. And now he's playing at Wisconsin Green Bay. This is going to happen more. And it's going to come down to just money, I guess. Somebody joked about, great joke. They said he just wants a college degree. That's great. But it's going to make me stop caring about college basketball pretty quickly. They got to do something about this. I mean, I guess it just becomes an extension, kind of like in Europe or Israel, or where you just have another pro league. And I guess that's where we're heading. And I can't see myself carrying a ton if that happens just across the board. I just can't see myself carrying all that much. I'll still love Purdue, still go to games. It'll just be less. Whatever. It's not the NCAA, but it's whoever's in charge. There's nobody in charge. They're destroying. They're killing, slaughtering the Golden Gooks. Karen Gerlach says, happy for Caleb Fletcher on fire. My Fort Wayne kids shine. Yep, that was a great day for the Fort Wayne kids, no doubt. And really happy for Caleb, no doubt. And that's a good game for him to get his feet under him. Hopefully see more of that. Nolan Hostetler says, hoping Painter can maximize what he has in Smith Lawyer window. Not sure he will ever have the backcourt he trusts more than them. Desperately need Colvin and Heidi to get going. Yeah, so there have been people referencing this idea that it'd be a waste of Fletch and Smith if this season isn't special. I don't agree with that, because I keep saying this. Smith and Lawyer came right out of the chute. They started, and they have not missed a start yet at Purdue. An incredible stat in their third year. And that's why probably guys feel like they're 100 years old. When you look at them, you're like, these dudes, even with a beard, they're still baby faced pretty much. But I'll keep saying it, and like many of you have referenced, last year should have built up some goodwill among Purdue fans where you say, okay, I'll take a deep breath as we work out some kinks and mature a little bit. It's not wasting these guys. They are going to help. Look at it this way. They're going to help bring guys along. So guys like Harris and guys like Cox, they need people that are going to teach them how to win, teach them how to do things the right way, teach them how to work hard. I can't think of two guys that are better at it. So just got to have a different perspective about it. I just don't see it at this team. I keep saying it. So 21, 20, 22 wins right in there. I don't think that gets you to contention of Big Ten title. There's a couple really good teams. Michigan looks really, really good. Illinois is a team that could turn it on. Maryland shows some promise. There's a lot of good teams in the Big Ten. Not a great team in the bunch, if you ask me. Oregon's good. They're 12-1. They're really good. They're going to have to travel a lot. Call me a skeptic about the West Coast. I think it's going to be really hard until these guys figure out how to travel well. It's a lot of mileage they're going to put on. That's going to wear them down. That's a tough thing, but that's what happens when you make the deal that they did and the Big Ten did. Fairweather Greg says, yes, the NCAA is silly. So the bearded guy is 1,000 years old. Zach Welch says Carson, Klein, Lou Jack, Moore. He's had backcourts before. He will have them again, but agreed. Let's win big with them. Yeah, but I think the idea of this being a very trusted duo back there, Smith and Lawyer specifically, very trusted by Painter. He knows what he's going to get. Sure, they still make mistakes, but Paint knows exactly what they will put forth in the game and vice versa. Those guys know his system better than anybody. They'll both be great coaches one day if they want to be. Mo P says Paint will never have another point guard like Braden. PJ might. This is a good point. They brought it up on the screen tonight. They start showing Braden's numbers. He's going to shatter every Purdue point guard number if he stays for all 4 years. He's getting close already. He's the best point guard Purdue's ever had. I think there's not a debate anymore, not in my mind anyway. I've asked you guys to tell me who's better. Still haven't had somebody convince me anybody's better than Smith. Yeah, there's no doubt. He's great. He's great. But the idea of PJ being head coach one day at Purdue, having a better point guard, that'd be kind of fun. That's a couple years away though. Paint's got a lot of good years left in him. So Eddie Money says, do you think Braden will get a triple double? I do think he'll get a triple double. Tonight was interesting. The rebounds were short. 6 boards is what I said, and 10 assists. I do think he'll get a triple-double. And I think he's going to have a couple before his career's over. I just think he's very capable. He's flirted with it a couple times. Tonight's one of those days where he flirted a bit. Boilermaker63 says Minny was, I believe, less than 40% from the free throw line. Let me corroborate. Minnesota's free throw shooting, holy moly, 43.8 from the free throw line, 23.5 from the field or from three. They're not a good team. There's not a good team. That's okay. There are bad teams around. MSP 138 says Colvin and Heidi kind of reminiscent of Brandon Newman. That's a good comparison. We know it's there. We've seen it. Waiting to see it consistently. Hope it happens for him. That's good analogy, especially with Colvin. Heidi's a different player. There's a lot of time. These guys are young, but I mean, I think one of them will get their feet under them and get confident this season. I don't know if both can do that. That'd be incredible if they could both do it this season. But I think one of them will get there, where they're at least contributing consistently as a 6 man. I really believe it. I know my friend who I was texting earlier, I don't want to call him out. He's not here. But I think that's the key to the whole thing. That's the key to Purdue getting over the hump and being better than a bubble team, being better than a strong NIT team and a week 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. Melissa Hunt, how are you? Says it sounded like a bunch of little kids chanting it. At the overrated. Yeah, there was. There were kids chanting here. Tell me if you missed this. You heard this. Kids chanting overrated. There is a person screaming like they were getting stabbed. Sounded like a group of girls, or specifically it reminded me of a couple years ago when Northwestern had a mom that did that. You guys remember that? A long time ago. And then you had a guy that booed. I swear he sounded like a husky, like a dog. It's like this. I was like, dude, that's not even a boo. I don't know what that is. Nita B. Inverse says, B. Dowd, if you snag tickets to the Northwestern game and I happen to see you there, I'd love to snag your Herbie Hancock on a Purdue hat if that's okay. It would really mean a lot to me. Listen, I'll sign. I would gladly sign something. And I've signed about 3 things other than, legal documents in my life at someone's request. I would gladly do that. If I see you, just absolutely ask. I'm very flattered by the idea. So yeah, that's absolutely. If I get to a game and I see a yes. Jeff Nestor said, let's be honest, Minnesota's terrible. I completely agree, Jeff. As they stood tonight, completely horrible. And they didn't have anything to play for either. That crowd, like I said, that is not a good crowd either. That's an embarrassing night for Minnesota. MOP says going to be tough to lose games when Purdue wins in the turnover and rebounding battle. Yep. Good win against a bad team. Keep building. It's a very good win. I don't care. Bad teams winning on the road by 20 in college basketball period is difficult, even if against bad teams. So I'll take this one, especially as bad as they looked in the first half. Purdue looked really bad in the first half at times. Jarv Jarvizda. Let's give it that. Second half tonight, that was what the doctor ordered. Agreed. Kevin in Albuquerque says, B-Dowd, nothing to say about the game because I didn't get a chance to watch. Glad for the win and your post game here. Thanks for coming, Kevin. This is one of those games, if you got it on DVR, I'd just say go watch the second half and enjoy yourself. If you're glutton for punishment, skip through the commercials, and Purdue just never found rhythm in the first half. So, but if you like enjoying yourself, just go straight to the second half. It was a ton of fun. 20 fun minutes of basketball is worth something. Jarvizda says Parker Fox started college during the 2017-2018 season, but he redshirted that season. I want to see if that is not the same guy I was thinking of. I don't think so. Parker Fox is number 23. I was thinking, is that the same guy? I'm going to check. It is the same guy. That's the same guy. Ezekiel is what I was talking about. I'm going to go with Ezekiel. But Parker Fox, yep, he's 1,000 years old. That is a shame because he's really bad still. He's that old and he's that bad. Go get a job, fella. Basketball isn't for everybody. I know. It's not for me. I tried really hard and I like to play, but the way that dude was throwing the ball into the stands, he airmailed the ball 3 times way out of the... I mean, like, it wasn't even close to somebody. So, yeah. Thank you for the fact check, though, Jarvizda. Zach Welch says, love having CJ in with the starters, allows room for Braden to operate off the ball. Agreed. That's a good point. Very good point. And his driving opens up the offense. Didn't finish the drives, but led to offensive rebounds and putbacks. This is the whole thing. This is kind of like what I was talking about last game in the Toledo thing where I said, I know I made this weird analogy and maybe I lost some of you during it, but I said, if Joe Tiller would have sacrificed a lesser bowl to get a really good team the next year, because Tiller loved going to the bowl game. He wanted to keep that streak alive when he was at Purdue. If he would have sacrificed maybe a Sun Bowl, and Purdue could have gotten a January 1 bowl the next year because they played some guys, grew them up a little early, put them on the field a little early. Maybe that's what we're seeing here. And maybe it's not going to be as costly as that. Maybe Purdue's an NIT team if they do that, if they keep guys on the court maybe a little longer. Right. I think a guy like Jacobson is one that we think about. The development would have been great to watch him grow up. By February or March, he probably would have been in really good shape. Fun to see him on the sideline. If you saw it today, he was cheering a couple times. Hard to miss when 7'4" stands up and cheers, but good to see him in street clothes, and he was in a good spirits. That was great to see. Kevin Albuquerque says, Mopi says 5 rebounds for CJ is great to see. Agree. Kevin Albuquerque says, I'm sorry, but if you're in your 8th year of eligibility and lose to a young team, maybe a co-rec league is for you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, basketball isn't for everybody, and there are church leagues everywhere that'd love to have a guy like him playing. So he'd be tough in the Harvest Church League. Franchise says Purdue is one elite rebounder and rim protector, rim deterrent to a special year. They're one away. If only we had an athletic 7'4" center. Oh wait, yeah. So that's the funny thing. So Purdue has lost. You could argue, Berg's still injured, I believe, but Berg didn't grow up the way many of us hoped or thought he might. So you lose the idea of Berg, the concept of Berg, a big, man-sized 7'2" dude. And then Jacobson came in and right away on that USA U18 team looked great, or U18, U19, whatever. I don't know what it was. And then he came in, he was starting, and then he breaks his leg. And so this happens, and it's set Purdue, you could say, set them up for other opportunities and set them back in the record column. This team is not as far along as many of us wanted them to be, but it's all right. It's all right. Everybody take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. Who's Johnny says, love the lineup change. Cox didn't score, but he did some great things. Gave Braden a break, bringing the ball up. That's also good. That is the best point. And I don't know if you're getting it this way. What I'm seeing there is a team that Painter's rotations in the first 10 minutes, it was weird. Purdue was not good, okay? But they rotated very logically. It should have been good. You saw Colvin and Heidi come in a platoon fashion. You're like, okay, there's some points on the floor here, right? It didn't work out real well. And then we saw a weird lineup with Burgess and First, which really confused me. But I think Painter's really messing around with the match or the lineups, trying to figure some things out. But Purdue was fresh in the second half, right? Because you saw Lawyer and Smith leave the game, I think for a couple minutes at a time, and everybody was fresh in the second half. TKR definitely took a big break there. that might be the entire story and the reason you'll want to see this new starting lineup get nurtured a bit here in the coming games. And Northwestern's another game where you can mess around a little bit. They're a better team. They'll make you pay. They're not as bad as Minnesota, obviously, but I like the potential there. I agree with that. Matt Keller says, Colvin looks like he's rushing a shot. Agreed. Hopefully he finds a shot. Yeah, he had one that he turned around. It was kind of, he was going left to right and he threw it. Had no arc to it, right? He hit it off the back of the rim. I think it bounced in, if I remember correctly. Very, very weird looking shot for a guy like Colvin who has a beautiful stroke. I mean, great looking shot, but that wasn't it. And he did it a couple times. He had the other one where he barely grazed the rim, I think. So yeah, he didn't forget to shoot, boys and girls. Let's not lose hope, not lose faith. Fairweather Greg Johnson says, "Oh, the screamer at Welch Ryan, they were awful." Yeah, that really, really bad, no doubt. Tarek Camel says, "Been telling y'all since the beginning of this season, start first. First compliments TKR." I don't know where you were, Tarek, when I was singing first praises early in the season. So if you were here telling me and I was telling you, and those sound waves must have hit each other and created silence. So that's a shame. Karen Grulock says, prayers for Jaden Ivey on a speedy recovery. Feel bad for him. Yeah, they got good news from that, though. He's had surgery today. Did not tear as much as they thought he might have. And the break wasn't as bad as they thought. They said they'd reevaluate in 4 weeks. That's really, really good. That sounds to me like really, really good news. It doesn't mean he'll be back playing in 4 weeks, but really good news. That was a pretty gross looking injury. So good for Ivy, good for the Pistons. And hopefully he is feeling confident in his leg enough that he can get back quickly. Metal Scholar 007 says, getting a great performance from Lawyer will likely always put us over the top. But when Heidi and or First can show up, and they will, both in the scoring and rebounding, we are very competitive. Different ball game, different ball team. If you have those guys show up offensively, it will change everything, and it's going to happen. And we saw that when Purdue was playing with pace versus Alabama, when you had a bunch of guys scoring. Obviously, Cox went crazy from that minute and a half span. You need one other guy, right? Need one other guy. First, it's good, but he's not a dynamic scorer. What First did tonight, that is perfect. If I can get 8 to 10 points and 5 or 6 boards from First, it's going to be really, really good. It's going to be really strong for the team. Seth Harder says, need a mustache First for the rest of the season. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe we can put the word in, just mustache, right? No beard. Handlebar, Fu Manchu, who knows? But yeah, I think that would be, he's pretty light on his facial hair color, though. He's got hair there. Just it's light. That's tough for the blonde guys, no doubt about it. Thorogood says that after tonight, we are a tournament team. Wow, okay. First round winner, second weekend team. I think that's a lot to deduce from this one game. I think this was an important game. I think winning by 20 is a good sign. I just can't go that far yet. So they got a little bit more I need to see proven to me, but I'm not stressing. I hope I don't give the vibe to anybody. I'm stressing. I'm not stressing this season. So I want to see the team grow up, and I think we should have fun with this. I think a lot of people are not having fun. So Matt Keller says, if Lawyer keeps hitting shots like that, he could be called Steph Curry Jr. Okay, yeah. Lawyer, there's no doubt. I keep saying this. The guy is effortless looking, and he will quietly come out there and win and score 15, 17 points. Tonight, the basket was huge. It was an ocean for him. It was easy shooting, and he is a great shooter. People forget, they showed a stat line how he was 37 freshman year, 42% from three sophomore year, and this year he's at 46 or 47. I think that's right. I think I'm close if I'm not exactly right. But yeah, Lawyer can bomb, and we take it for granted, quite frankly. Let's get one more comment. Thorogood says, Zach, there is a world where Big Ten only has 1 or 2 teams that even matter in March. Big Ten, let's see. Oregon proving my point tonight. Yeah, I don't know what Oregon's doing. Are they losing right now? So I don't know. Let's see. I'll find out right now. The Big Ten, to me, based on what I've watched, because I haven't watched everybody play, yeah, Oregon's down by 11 on Illinois. So, good point. It's a flat conference, right? You've got a bunch of teams that are near the top that aren't great teams nationally, but But here's the thing. I really believe the Big Ten will get a lot better this season because of developmental coaches. You got a lot of good coaches still in the league. I really believe in that. So there was a great video put out by the creatives. If you haven't seen it, it's on Instagram. I think it was on Twitter. And it just talks about Purdue's back-to-back Big Ten championships. So they're holding the trophy. And there's a chance to have a back-to-back-to-back, kind of like they did back in 1997 when I was there, my senior year. Great video. Getting that third Big Ten championship, I don't want to say miraculous, but it'll be close to miraculous. This team's got a long way to go for me to be a contender at the top of the conference. I know a lot of people disagree and they think, yeah, they're going to contend. If they contend, obviously they're in the tournament, especially their pre-con was so strong. They played them well. They played teams well. They lost to good teams. They lost badly to good teams, but they lost to good teams. And that's supposed to matter in the net, whatever, screw the net. It doesn't look like anything right now. So, yeah, so that's about it. It's a good night, 20-point win. And, what can you say? Happy being here with you guys. I didn't get this. Andy in Colorado said, good evening. I say hi to you. John Timmons says, first finding his role in the team. I miss these comments because the thing jumps around on me a little bit. Want to make sure I get everybody I'll end with Greg saying Minnesota isn't good, but we do feel bad for Ben Johnson. Do we feel bad for Ben Johnson? No, I don't feel bad for Ben Johnson. He can develop young guys. They hit the portal and draft. I don't feel bad for him just because I thought he should have been canned 2 seasons ago, I think, right? I think, is he in his 3rd or 4th season? But what happened last year to Minnesota, I guess you can feel bad for him there because it looked like that Minnesota team was developing into something special in like February last year. And this year it's a completely rebuilt team except for Garcia and Ezekiel. So yeah, you can feel bad for him there. I don't feel bad for any guy making millions of dollars who, I mean, he's coaching his alma mater. It's pretty awesome. He's making, like, again, the money thing matters. And if they decide to go a different direction, he's going to get money to walk away with, and he'll probably be an assistant coach someplace else because he seems like a good dude. So, but no, I don't feel bad for him, but I do understand this is one of the victims. Everybody's victim of the portal. It sucks. If we're just being real honest, every rule is lousy right now. None of it helps the game. I said this the other day. I got on a diatribe of this. Nothing helps the game, the quality of the game, football or basketball right now in these rules. And they've got to do something to just say, okay, hey, if you sign a transfer deal 2 years, if you leave early that before your 2-year, contract is up, there's going to be a cost. Well, the poacher will have to pay, and also you're going to have to sit out for a year. Still be like, I mean, wasn't this the original thing? Was that the players have control and they'd get income? Okay, great. 2 years is not a lot to ask. You can still leave, but there's a cost. You won't be able to play. You can leave, you'll get your money, have fun, and you get to sit on the bench for a year. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. But right now, there's no reason to stop people from moving. And teams like Minnesota, programs like Minnesota, are just taking it in the teeth. Sucks. All right. So that's about it. Purdue wins 81-61. Have a great evening, 10:51 now. God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. Northwestern up yet in God's country. Later.